Hi, Grand Rising. Good afternoon. Good evening to everybody. This is Lisa from Question the Narrative. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Friday, the 21st of November. I'm here with Honey Golden. Honey, how are you?
Good, good. The weather's a
Great.
little
Thanks for
wild.
your hair is wild, you're saying, because you just washed it. I, on the other hand, have been in great humidity. I don't know what's going on with the humidity and the
Oh,
weather down in Italy, but we've got rain. Portugal has had rain for 2 weeks. So like our shipments of things from Portugal were all wet, and wool and water don't really mix that well together if you don't want to smell.
no.
So exciting on that. Well, I am so grateful for Honey as usual because she's always really been flexible with timing because we're both going through, like, we both have a lot going on. Honey is doing, and you're, first of all, you're doing some amazing work, just so much going
Thank you.
on. And I have to say, share with you that I understand more now about our earlier discussions than I did when we had those initially and what you were saying. It's so much more clear. And I can't necessarily even articulate why it's more clear, but I put that out there and I wonder. So I thank you, first of all. And I wonder if other people feel that same way about knowing things in a very different level than we did before.
Yeah, it's amazing when you do because it just eases everything.
Yeah,
Like it's
it is
so
really
much less
interesting.
stressful.
I have to say that one of the things, and I love this one woman I'm recently listening to on TikTok, and I do put it in the Telegram channel. She's saying activation, if you've listened to this activation done, but she's talking all about the synchronicities of life. And to me, synchronicities, pattern recognition, and the variations of patterns. To me, we've talked about pattern recognition before, and I am seeing over and over again about this series of videos that YouTube is now enabling to have that are constantly just talking, and it's over and over, pretty much the same theme, which is we're going through this transition. Understand that as we move forward with this, it's about how our consciousness creates the change. And this is something you and I have been talking about, and you've been saying for quite some time, honey, where you say these things are going to happen, and we translated it into a third dimensional construct of here's how we'll see the physical change. And now it's just things are shifting. And that's where the financial system is. That's where the systems are going. Do you feel that, honey? Or, I mean, do you see this sort of happening in this movement?
Yeah. It's almost like if you could see your subconscious mind as the matrix, because it actually is, right? That's what builds the matrix. And
Mm-hmm.
we've been holding the overlay of 3D, like the
Mm-hmm.
distorted version of the matrix within us, right? In the subconscious mind. So if you can imagine it starting to filter out and being pulled out and disintegrating in the universe, being turned back to pure energy, that's what I would say is what's happening. So we're not carrying as much of it. So the
Mm-hmm.
more we let go of, the faster the 3D disintegrates and the faster we move into an actual 5D experience because we're in the 5D, but what are we
Mm-hmm.
experiencing? And
Mm-hmm.
because we're in it, the frequency is pushing us to heal. It's time to heal. It's time to let go of that distorted version. And it's causing a lot of craziness, not only in the outside world, but also in a lot of people's lives right now. Like
Yeah,
they've had
and
triggered moments.
lots of triggering, lots of things that give us perspective to be able to heal. So we're going back to those things, which is
Mhm.
fascinating. But also now, as the transition, and we talk a lot about the financial transition, we talk about the systems transitions. We're seeing things fall apart, which we should be excited to see them fall apart so we can then create the new. And the financial system is the hardest one to allow to fall apart because we're so controlled by how that really establishes our safety net. And that's the thing that I think is really interesting. Well, I'm going to put that out there, and then I'm going to link to this video, and I'm going to put it in Telegram again, and I'll share with you, honey, too, that a couple of these videos just to sort of articulate this in a way that's very soothing and very clear. We have transitioned; these things are transitioning. It's our choice to embrace that transition. And it's a very different concept than things that we're used to in 3D to say, oh, here's what's caused that change, and there we're doing it. And that's the thing that's really interesting, but sort of the mind versus the heart concept. But let's go into a couple of things that are actually happening and explore what's happening in this. The first one I want to do is I want to do things that are shaping the foundation of, I don't want to say geopolitical, but relationships between countries that are right now, and also relationships that we have in terms of how our financial foundations have been set up. So, the first one I want to do is to talk about how President Trump recently hosted the Prince of Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia is interesting from the perspective that I don't know how many people are familiar with the fact that in 1973, the US signed a treaty with Saudi Arabia, said that for our military protection, you will sell all of your oil in US dollars, effectively making the US dollar the global currency of the world, the reserve currency, and providing the concept, the term called the petrodollar, and allowing the US to be the only central banking jurisdiction that could print at will, meaning they controlled the money supply.
Mhm.
That's what happened in 1973. And then I don't know how many people remember that in 2024, we stopped that treaty. Or Saudi Arabia said, thank you, you're not fulfilling. US said, okay, we're not fulfilling. We're not doing anywhere. We're going to go somewhere else. And they actually turned their head to Russia and the BRICS nations and established new treaties. That was the beginning of this transition out of the petrodollar into a world of a poly currency, a poly market where multiple currencies had a lot of strength, and transitioning us from the need for countries to transition to dollars, to convert to dollars in order to do things, fundamentally shifting the bond market. So here we are in 2025, the end of 2025, where Saudi Arabia and Trump are holding a meeting. And then, as a consequence of that meeting, honey, we have a new investment mandate from Saudi Arabia to put $1 billion into the US investment. Nice amount of money. Of course, they made it all off of the US dollar and all the trade and all of that. But that meeting has significance. And it also, I'll leave the next part on that. But I want to ask, honey, what was the significance of that meeting and that investment commitment from Saudi Arabia into the US?
So I get it was a trigger point for the new money, basically. And it was like showing people, okay, we're here now, finally. So every time we see one of these things, like it's a step closer into complete change. So we're very, very close. And I mean, it feels extremely solid. The financial system is extremely solid. And it's been shifting for a while. Like the universe is lining things up in our favor.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to remember that it's our soul and our subconscious that are basically driving everything. So the more that you can heal any kind of worthiness wound or feeling that you are a slave to the system, if you can heal those two things within yourself, within your body, your mind, your inner child, which is your human soul, that is going to push everything forward. People ask a lot, when?
Mm-hmm.
And it's when you do those things, it will materialize. We have our own work to do, and I think that's been bypassed a lot. And that's why it's coming up to the surface. But it's so close. And so many people are doing their work when it comes to their human part of them knowing that they're sovereign and they're no
Mm.
longer a slave to this 3D system.
Yes, yes,
So
yeah.
that's where we're at with that.
Very, very exciting because I mean that's
Yeah.
very quite symbolic. It's quite symbolic about what we're
Mhm.
talking about here with Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia seems to be sort of the focal point of these things. There was another thing too. So I want to ask this, there's a significance of this also at these dinners. There were all the tech bros, as they say, the billionaire technology kings, from Elon Musk to Peter Thiel to all of these, to Larry Ellison, all the ones who've controlled the current technology foundational infrastructure. And in there, there's another company that Saudi Arabia has invested in that's a competitor to Neuralink. So you've got Saudi Arabia committing to an investment. You've got Elon Musk at this dinner who's doing Neuralink. So, first of all, what is Neuralink right now? And is it the nefarious company that we think it is?
It's the nefarious company that, I mean, it's taken over. So, no, it's not the same company. However, it needs to still be exposed. So, people will still need to say, I don't want a chip in my head. I'm okay with a watch, you know, I'm okay with wearing something. I'm not okay with implanting something. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's how it will eventually go. But people need to have, just like in Europe, like they're outraged at the idea of being chipped right now. And that will translate all over the world. People will not be okay with being chipped.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that was planned by the dark and needs to be exposed in some way by
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
light so that people say no.
That's good. And what about this competitor that Saudi Arabia has invested in? First of all, did they make that investment in a competitor?
No, I get no. So it's
Okay.
actually just like a narrative
Mm-hmm.
to push things forward. The money just feels like a symbol to me
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
they're coming into the mix and the money system's changing. So it's like they're
Mm-hmm.
doing more than one thing at a time there.
Interesting. And Saudi Arabia has been very vocal about their diversification away from oil. How important is that narrative right now for us?
It's really important because we're not going to be using oil anymore.
That's actually
Yeah.
exactly the point. Yeah, exactly. Like how, they have to understand that this, change now or forever hold that the bank account, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. That's very interesting. So let's go to continue and expand along the lines of technology. Been seeing a lot of things happen with NVIDIA. And NVIDIA is the chip that is supposedly the hosting of that allows AI infrastructure, the backbone of AI infrastructure, supposedly one of the most valuable companies in the world, one of the only companies that is actually producing these chips that allow AI. There has been a rumor, first of all, that said that they actually are doing back deals. In fact, it's all over tech, and it's not just quote of a rumor in the conspiracy world. It is all about the fact that NVIDIA is actually propping up its stock price to and doing back deals with companies that they give the money to the company that's making the purchase, and they're actually not selling the amount of chips that they don't have the demand. First of all, is there an issue with the profitability of NVIDIA?
Yes. I get there is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do we need this chip infrastructure in order to run AI?
No.
Okay, let's continue along this pathway. All right, so we do. Why is NVIDIA in the market right now, and what role does it play in the whole technology infrastructure narrative?
It's being exposed. I think that's part of it. And AI will be morphing. But when you first started talking about all the tech, my higher self said everything will be funneled into Space Force.
Hmm.
Even SpaceX will become a part of Space Force.
And what does that mean?
So, like
The
Elon
space
Musk's
force.
version of Space Force or what he's doing with space will also be absorbed into Space Force, and then it will
So,
all be owned by the people.
okay, so right now, Space Force is the fifth branch of the military, the US military.
Yeah.
And SpaceX is Elon Musk's company, will be integrated into Space Force, and then the technology stuff will into Space Force. Is there a reason why you're saying into Space Force? Is technology and is AI, first of all, from humanity, or is it from somewhere else?
So it's from the universe. So, like ETs have AI that they use, but they understand that it comes from the field of consciousness. So they're using that field of consciousness, whereas we think we have a physical item that we're using.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But everything, if you really get deep into it, every single thing that you look at is just different frequencies of light. That your
Mm-hmm.
computer's not real, nothing inside of the computer is real. Your walls are not real, like nothing's real.
Yeah, we've
So,
got machines making a lot of unreal things all over the world, don't
right.
we?
So, what are we doing? We're inventing the idea, well, this is how it has to work. This is
Mm.
part of the game. I mean, think about like Farmville. These are the ones that I can remember. And then there's one called, I can't remember the name of it, but the kids love it and they're building in there. And there's a
Mm.
great hidden library at the end of this game. And I can't, Minecraft, I think it's called.
Mhm.
And they're building everything, they're creating the world. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, so interesting. Oh my
My
gosh. So
kids
the kids
understand that this is a game better than we do.
yeah, and they understand that, or they're practicing how to make worlds by using games, and that's why play
Yeah.
is so important to what we're doing here in this matrix. So that then leads on to, so all this technology, there's a lot coming out in disclosure of how the tech is trying to track us, control us. This one that's this week that's coming out is about the iPhone and how multiple countries have already banned the iPhone because it is sharing private data with Mossad. And many countries are saying, no, 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 no. So we're trying to turn that off. Is that just part of the disclosure game that we're talking about here with these handhelds?
Yeah. So if you can think about the way that the white hats work, they're doing everything in a circular way. So this is all the white hats operation. And every time that, like, there's lots and lots of circles. So the
Mm-hmm.
latest circle and the most important one, really, because it gets us to the end of the movie, is Israel. So you've got Epstien, you've got things that are going on, with what you just said, the iPhone. There's different things that are going on. There's a lot of discord with people being really rude to people that are from Israel. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not the people that are the problem, it's the government because it's all linked into the elites. But the circle is how the white hats work. So they are basically surrounding the problem.
Mm.
And this circle will shrink and shrink and shrink. And all the little pieces will come together at a point, like my nose, and
Mm-hmm.
they'll come together And once
Interesting.
they're together, then it pops.
Wow.
So different people will pay attention to different parts of it.
Yeah.
And they're getting everybody interested so they can pay attention. And then
Mm-hmm.
when they pay attention, they give energy to the shift.
Very, very great description, because that's exactly what these other videos are talking about when everything is shifting. Is like, we're shifting our mind, our focal point, our vision about doing it. Because you're right, we're talking about all the technology, and all the technology is leading into data and concern about all this information, and it all goes to Israel. So now let's go into the other one you just talked about, Epstein and these files, because we've had very interesting sort of disclosures in a pathway of leading us to the quote unquote saying now we're releasing the files. Well, we said we were doing that before and we got nothing. Now we've had Trump sign something, and we've had him being outed. We've got all these different elements sort of connecting in with the Epstein files. What's going on with the Epstein files right now, and what should we expect next with this? Will there be a disclosure?
I think so. I think there will be a disclosure. I think that there are enough people that are ready for the government to change and fall, like be reorganized. Because if you think about it, most of the governmental people in Congress and the Senate, I mean, most of them are gonna go
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they are all being blackmailed and and do they even exist anymore? I get definitely not. They've already been taken care of, but it's time to disclose what happened. So if
Mm-hmm.
you think about that and you think about the Epstein files, think about Candace Owens, think about when Epstein comes out, it's going to be that's the big drama that will ensue. That would be, when all of the government starts to get exposed, that's when something like the EBS would happen for a few days. Like when people would go into kind of shock,
Mm-hmm.
right?
With about
Especially
what's
if
going
they are not
on.
paying attention to this stuff.
So what you're saying is, in one respect, is that the Epstein files couldn't be released until people were ready to let go of the need of government, because
Yeah.
it's going to topple government. And that's very exciting. Very, very, very exciting, because we're seeing so many different things, but we also had to throw Trump under the bus in
Oh, yeah.
order to get that way. Now, that's part of this whole disclosure. Is that the role he plays right now in this process?
In a lot of areas, because there's a whole group of people, and these are the people that are more bleeding heart people. They're the people who have paid attention to CNN for a really long time. They're the people that are a main player,
Mm-hmm.
but they've been completely unaware and kind of buried with their head in the sand. So if you pick on Trump, that brings them along, right, to pay attention. And that's the biggest fish. They're basically baiting that group to pay attention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it's getting every single person is paying attention to what's going on,
Yeah.
unless you've already like I don't pay that much attention because I've already seen it, know what's happening. I'm just ready for it to fall apart. So
Right.
I'm giving energy and celebrating the falling apart, but I'm not giving my energy to each piece because I'm creating new things now, getting ready
Mm-hmm.
for the new earth, the next step.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome. Yeah.
yeah. So, where are you at with it? But there's a lot of people that are watching blow by blow with all the things that are going on. And maybe it's not even the Epstein stuff they're paying attention. I noticed that there's a thing with hemp as well. So, there's all these things that are stirring people up. And they're
Mm-hmm.
like, What can we put in there that's going to stir up this group so that they
Mm-hmm.
pay attention and want change? How long
Mm-hmm.
should we leave the government closed so that people pay attention and realize we don't actually need the same kind of government?
Mm-hmm.
All those things are all working up to a big shift.
So, Robert F. Kennedy, so to that same degree, Jr. is been doing so many good things,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden he's saying that we should be chipped. We should have something inside of us. Are they using him in the same way?
Yeah. Yeah, because he's also a 2.0. And most of the people that we see that are Trump are not actually Trump. Trump is
Mhm.
sequestered. He's working with other things right now, actually. So they're using his brand, they're using RFK's brand, and most of the people that we see are not the same person that we thought they were.
Right, of course, and that makes sense. But this one in particular is very good because he's doing so many good things in terms of outing the whole agenda with the vaccines. We're now at a point where I think Del Bigtree has gotten finally a confirmation of clinical trials that there have been no clinical trials, no appropriate protocols for any of the vaccines, nor even solely or the interaction of the vaccines that we have. We've now got the CDC saying, well, there could be a link between autism and vaccination, all of these things coming out. But then they're like, oh, well, that's what he just did. So, that's part of the whole process, which is very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Then we have another element into this. Barron Trump. Barron continues to play an interesting, very sort of quiet role if you're not really paying attention. He actually sat in front of Congress this past week and debunked what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was saying about a number of things and talking about the agenda that she's looking for. And he just gave data and he just said for 10 minutes, spoke for 10 minutes, closed a book and left and completely left everybody speechless. What role is he playing now, and what role will he play?
He's a liaison between the ETs right now.
Mm-hmm.
So Barron Trump is brilliant. I'm not totally sure. I feel like sometimes we're seeing Barron Trump, sometimes we're seeing an ET that's actually disguised as Barron Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's very brilliant. I feel like he's part Pleiadian. So I'm getting dry, sorry.
Oh, that's okay, please. Mm.
I had to turn the heater on and leave it on. So basically he's doesn't want us to know totally what he's doing, but he's going to be a big part of the ET contact situation
Mm.
because he is really carrying like brilliance within him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got all these timelines going on at once, too.
Oh, that's
So,
very interesting. Yeah, so we've
yeah.
got so many different things. That's interesting. Ah, very, very interesting. And who are his parents? His real biological parents?
Um, Trump is part of that mix. So his father is actually part of that mix. I feel like his mother is, I mean, I still get Diana is
Mm-hmm.
his mother, but there's a third component in there, almost like certain DNA was turned on. So he's kind of going to show the way to what children are going to be as well, like
Mm-hmm.
creating the future. He's a huge part of the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and we won't really see his role for a while, like completely unfold.
Yeah.
And it is being tweaked here and there,
Mm-hmm.
depending on us. But he will be seen as almost like Spock, you know, but more brilliant.
Hmm.
than that.
Mhm.
Like, and having much more reach than that. And another thing too that we're seeing with Trump and RFK is that they're not perfect. And that's really important for humanity too, because we've definitely spent a lot of time giving away power to our hero, right? And
Mhm.
hierarchy's going. So for us in general, we have to start depending on ourselves and our own mind and our own
This is
heart. Yeah.
very, very important. Very important. Well, that's interesting. There's still more to more to learn about Baron. He's doing
Yeah.
certain things that are very interesting. And I won't ask any further because I mean I'm not even sure we need to know any more than he's outlining certain things and he's doing
Mhm.
some very good things and he's quiet about it. He's quite quiet about it. He's very different from his father in terms of
Yeah.
how he approaches that. But we need it, what his father's role was, and then we're going to need what he's doing to support us as well. But important to keep on really emphasizing, don't give your power away, which is what all these roles are meant to be. A couple other things, a couple things, and then we'll just, because we'll keep it a short one today. Tomorrow is supposed to be the day that ISO 222 comes out and means that there is a change in the way you shift money from the memoing side of transactions, replacing the SWIFT memo. Is that a big date for us? And is anything really going to fundamentally shift in the financial system with that tomorrow?
I feel like there might be some glitches with that. It's like part of the transition. It is not the end of the transition. It's not the thing we're going to use. It's going to expose some things too. And I feel like one of the things that's getting exposed right now is Bitcoin.
Very interesting. Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what my is coming in. Like,
Once again, I highly recommend this book, Hijacking Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is not what it was originally meant to be. And it really caused the stir as to what was going on, disrupting the current financial system. And it's worth knowing that insight for that. And then one other thing, I'm going to ask one last question. There is a constant construction work going on where I am and everywhere I go. And they're doing work on roads that are in perfectly good shape and better than most other roads that do need help. And they're just renovating things in construction. What do we not know about what's going on with all this construction?
yeah, that's happening here too. And it's really strange. So part of it is the new infrastructure, and it's almost like a bridge. And then part of it is to annoy us about wasting our tax dollars on
I'm
things that
annoyed.
don't need to be fixed. Yeah.
I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed.
Yeah. So it's like twofold. And I think for a while we may be using some of these things, like we might transition into hydrogen cars and use the roads for a little while, but ultimately the earth doesn't want them. They're an interruption to not her skin biome, I'll call
Mm,
it. It's like you have a scar on your skin and it pulls at you, when you're
mhm.
moving your arm around because
Fighting.
there's a scar there.
Mhm.
And she wants all of that stuff gone. So it will be gone.
Hmm.
And all the roads will turn to dirt roads eventually again.
Dang.
So,
Very.
because we'll have flying cars versus, and she's okay with natural stuff too. So, but she doesn't like rubber inside the road. She doesn't like asphalt. She's not so great about cement, but she feels better about that than she does the asphalt that's being created. So there's all these things that are happening to bring our attention to, like, what are they doing? Why are they
Interesting.
fixing that? And then
Yeah.
also there is some infrastructure that will be a bridge into the next thing.
Yeah. I
But
feel like
they're
there's
building places
okay.
everywhere here.
Yeah.
Houses are being built constantly. And I'm like, What's all this
Mm.
for? Like, pretty soon we're not going to have nearly as many people.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's something they're redoing. It feels like they're putting something different into the infrastructure as you're talking about. That's what it feels like to me. And then the housing, I think we're shifting the type of housing that we're
We
trying
are.
to do.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. But next time we're going to talk about tokenization because I'm still on that word.
Okay.
Okay. But I think that's it, honey. Is there anything else that you want to say before we wrap up?
No, I mean, just take care of yourself and pay attention to your human part of you right now, because that's the biggest part that is shifting. And if you're getting triggered, ask why and work on it. Because we're really getting shown what we need to heal so that we can move forward. And if you want to move forward, then the
Yeah.
first person to work with is yourself.
Excellent. Well,
Yeah,
wonderful. Well, honey, thank you so much. It was great.
it
This is Lisa
was.
from Person and Narrative, wishing everybody a wonderful day. Thank you.
Love you guys.
Yeah.